All right. Hello, guys and gals. Haven't made a video since last Tuesday, almost a week. Was it last Tuesday? I guess it was last Tuesday, so a week. Wasn't able to make one yesterday because I was, what do you call it? Kind of getting everything together. I had to list a bunch of stuff and do a bunch of shipping for eBay because I was out of town, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, regardless, this video is about pricing tips. So 5 pricing tips for new FBA booksellers. The reason I thought of this, let me see here. The reason I thought to make this video is because I noticed as I have been listing books, more books than I have in the past few months or this year. Listing more books, I noticed that while listing books compared to listing CDs, there are a lot of new sellers on a lot of the listings for books. And it used to be that you would see some new sellers, but there would be a lot of the larger sellers on FBA-wise on book listings. But because of the increased fees, FBA fees, and now long-term storage fees that are going to be kicking in, I think a lot of the bigger sellers either stop doing FBA or stop sending in the lower priced or lower profit items, lower profit books, and are sticking to the textbooks and the higher priced books and are merchant fulfilling the rest of them. And so then what you have is this discrepancy between newer or more on book listings, especially the lower profit, quicker selling ones. You have a lot more newer sellers and a lot less of the mega sellers or even medium-sized sellers that have, let's say, thousands, over 5,000, over 10,000 feedback ratings. The mega sellers are more of have hundreds of thousands. Those are the big mega sellers. And what I've noticed is a lot less of them are on these book listings. So sometimes I would see, like I saw a couple while I was listing today, where there wasn't one other FBA seller that had over maybe 100 or 150 feedback ratings, which means, and most of them were under 100 and many of them were under 50, which means that they have not been doing this for very long. And it just, the thought came to me that it's probably, or it's definitely really important that new sellers, whether it's books or anything else, but just talking about books, that they have a good idea of how to price. And I think in terms of pricing strategies and how to go about it, it's changed a little bit, I guess, in 2018 versus 2 years ago, just because there's less profit in books in general because there's higher fees, especially for the books that sell for less. So a book that maybe made $5 profit might only make $3 or a little less profit, assuming that you're not spending a lot of money on the book to buy the book. I'm assuming like around $1 or less. If you're spending $2 or $3, then you're definitely not going to want to send in those lower profit books, even if they're selling really fast. But nonetheless, I just saw a lot of new sellers, and a couple of things that popped into my head. I said 5, so I came up with 5 tips or just ideas. One of them is this might sound silly, but is using common sense. And what I mean by that is taking all of the data and information you have access to. So the sales rank, using Keepa data that will show you the historical sales rank, how often the items have been selling, when's the last time it's sold, that type of thing. Also, number of offers, both merchant fulfilled and FBA. If there's hundreds of merchant fulfilled offers versus there's only 50, if there's 5 FBA offers versus there's like 50, then those are big differences. So you have to take all of those things into consideration when deciding how to price. So rank is important in so much as it gives you a quick little snapshot of where the book is. If a book has a sales rank under 10,000 versus one having 500,000, chances are that that book that has a rating under 10,000 is selling pretty often, and that one that has 500,000 is selling much less in general. It makes more sense to have your app while you're sourcing and to be able to see what the average sales rank is over the past few months, and even better to be able to look at the Keepa data. It could be camel as well, but you want to see the pattern, the sales pattern. Is it consistent? Is it steady? Is it all over the place? If it's 500,000, doesn't necessarily mean it's not selling often. Maybe this is a down time of year and it sells when it's back to school time, or maybe in the holidays, whatever it may be. And the number of offers, it is, if it's a book that's, so for instance, I am sending in one of the Malcolm Gladwell books. There's a couple of them where there's a little bit of profit in there, assuming that you're not spending too much on the book. I only spent 50 cents on it, and I'll probably, I don't remember exactly, probably get around $3 profit. I can't, maybe a little less, but nonetheless, it'll be some profit and it'll sell really fast. There's a lot. That book is ranked, I think it's Outliers. That book is ranked under 1,000. I think that it's on like 100 something, if I remember correctly. So basically that type of book, it sells many copies a day. And if you, what do you call it? Okay, my point was that you're going to see a lot of FBA offers and you're going to see a lot of merchant fulfilled offers. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, as long as there's enough profit for you. So you want to take all of these things into consideration. If there's a book that has like, now 90 offers, FBA offers, 70 FBA offers for Outliers or something like that is one thing. But if there's like 10 or 15 FBA offers and it's a book that's not selling that often, that seems like it's too crowded and too much competition for me, unless it's selling enough to where you feel that you can price it as the lowest FBA offer and get the next sale, even though there's another 15 or 20 offers there. It just kind of depends, but you want to use common sense. You don't want to just randomly price it and just hope that it sells. So you want to take all of those things into consideration that will help you kind of decide whether you want to price it on the lower end or medium side or on the higher end. Another tip is so of course you want to make profit, but you also want to be realistic. So what I mean is that you don't necessarily, on certain books, people sometimes will price what I feel is too high, thinking that, oh, I can sell this book for $19.95 when it's more realistic to maybe sell it for $12 or $13 or even $15 based upon the merchant fulfilled prices, based upon the demand, et cetera, that it's nice to try to make more profit off of your books, but be realistic. You want to have that balance. Of course, we all want to make a lot of profit and have a high return on our investments, our book investments. But what's more important, especially in these days of higher FBA fees and monthly long-term storage fees, is that you you sell faster. So can you make $4 or $5 more to wait around? Maybe, but will you be able to sell it within the 6 months? Maybe, maybe not. You kind of have to see how often the book is selling, how much competition you have, where the prices have been when it's been selling. Of course, you don't know if that was merchant fulfilled or FBA, but nonetheless, you can kind of get an idea. So you want to make a profit. Of course, that's the point, right, of sending in books to FBAs, to make a profit, but you also want to be realistic. So make sure that you're not kind of pricing too high. That's for books in general. When it comes to things like textbooks or school-related books that are going to sell a lot of copies starting, well, now, but especially ramping up in a few weeks in August and then into the first 10 days or so of September, you can, in a lot of instances, you can price really high and your book will probably sell. Not 100% of the time, of course, but that's an example where that could happen. 1 second. Wait, déjame ese video, okay? No, come on, go. Venga. All right. No. Go play. So where was I? So make profit would be realistic. Mama, close the door, please. Come on. Dale. And then open. No, close it, Mama. Sorry, guys. So make profit would be realistic. And then the third one would be don't always be the lowest price. So what I mean by that is, yes, you want to sell it fast and you also make a profit, but you don't always have to be the lowest price if there's, or based upon the information or based upon the book that you're trying to sell. So a lot of times I'll want to be the lowest, but a lot of times I'll see that I feel the prices are a little too low and I can make a little bit more money because the book is selling very often and frequently enough that I don't mind waiting maybe a couple more weeks or a month or so to make a little bit more money. It kind of depends, on the situation, but that's the third tip. And then the fourth tip is sometimes be the lowest. So don't always be the lowest, but sometimes be the lowest. So if there's enough profit in there and the lowest price gives you that enough profit and it's going to sell and you just want to turn it over and get your money back and buy more inventory, then definitely sometimes you want to be the lowest. It just depends on the situation. So a lot of times I will price at if the lowest is $10.99 or $10.75, I'll price there. Sometimes there's a couple that are, you'll see two books priced like $8.99, $9.15, and then it'll jump up to like $11.99, and then Amazon prices, I don't know, $14.95 or whatever. I'm just as a random example. So those two low prices are frequently either a mega seller, so you'll see like Jensen on there or another big seller, or they're brand new sellers that are pricing too low and they're losing out on potential profit. Now, this is of course a book that is going to sell often enough so that you'll be able to wait out those sales and then get the next couple sales. So if they're at like $8.99, two book, or let's say $9.99, and the next jumps up to $10.75 or $11.99, let's say, and then you can wait for those two lower ones to sell and then get that third sale, FBA sale. So it's just a matter of mixing and matching, having some inventory be the lowest price, some inventory be a little bit higher, but it's good to have that mixture. Of course, I mean, it just doesn't make sense if all the FBA prices are around, let's say, $10.99 to $11.99, and there's one that's at $8.75. If it's either a mega seller or it's somebody who doesn't quite know what they're doing, doesn't understand that they can make that extra couple bucks if they price with everybody else. So in certain cases, it might be somebody just trying to get rid of book, get it out of their inventory. But aside from that, it's basically a bad idea in general. So don't always be the lowest, but sometimes be the lowest, right? And then the last one tip I would say is don't undercut, match. So a lot of times I'll see, I mean, some people set their repricers to be 1 penny under, and I find that obnoxious because then it just gets 2 repricers or more into a battle of just going really, really far down until there's just hardly any profit left. So what I prefer is, whether you're using a repricer or not, but I do not use a repricer, is to match. So if the lowest price is $10.75, match that price. If the lowest price is $19.99, match that price. This would be, what I'm saying is if you want to be the lowest, I'm not saying always be the lowest, but if you want to be the lowest FBA price, you want to get that next FBA sale on that book, then you want to match, not undercut. An exception would be you're having a fire sale, you're trying to get rid of books that are going to get hit with a long-term storage fee. So that would be an example of just of potentially undercutting just to get rid of them. Hopefully that won't happen to you that often if you price in a way that you're able to sell consistently. Excuse me. And to move your inventory in and out. Basically, you don't want it to sit at Amazon for very long. I would shoot for getting your inventory to sell within less than 6 months, of course, in the long term. I'm talking about books that are not slow movers that have tons of profit in them, like $30, $40, $50 plus books that take a little longer to sell. Ones that are lower price, ones that you're going to make like, you know, $3 to $6 in profit, let's say. You want to sell those within a few weeks or a month typically. Unless your entire inventory or most of it is comprised of those. Some might take a little longer, whatever. But you're going to have to send in some more profitable books as well to have a balance, because otherwise you're just going to have to send in a ton to make very much money on those lower priced books. But yeah, I would highly recommend do not get into the habit of undercutting unless you're just trying to get rid of books, get them out of your inventory. It just makes more sense for everybody to just match the prices and not to undercut. I see that sometimes. I see it with CDs and with books and with CDs, but it's just not a good idea in general. It's not a good habit to get into just to try to get the next sale. And again, you know, a lot of repricers are set to price a penny under, but I think that's the wrong way to go. And I'll always match. I will I will underprice the lowest price if I feel that it's way too high. And I don't feel that it's realistic that it's going to sell at that price anytime soon or within a comfortable time frame. And I want to get my money, or I want to make my sale and get my money back sooner than later. So that would be another example of where I feel it's okay to underprice, but that's based on different factors. How often is the book selling, book or CD selling? What do you call it? What are the merchant fulfilled prices, you know, versus the FBA? If there's a massive difference and it doesn't look like that makes much sense, which I see sometimes, not all the time or not even frequently, but enough to notice it, then I might underprice the lowest FBA offer. And that's usually when there's only a few other FBA offers, not when there's a ton of them. That usually doesn't happen. Or sometimes I'll see like there's 6 FBA offers and they're like $10 or $12 away, or they're like $5 or $6 higher than I feel is worth, or I feel that somebody will come along and actually buy that item. And these are just for typical books. These aren't necessarily, you know, school books or textbooks. So basically, those are my 5 tips, guys. Common sense. What I mean by that is take all the information that you can, all the data, which you can get, most of it in one screen on FBA Scan or one of the other apps. I use FBA Scan, but you can use Scout IQ and all the other ones. And you'll have a lot of data just on one screen. Sometimes you have to go through to look at Keepa to get a better idea, a deeper look. But all of that, a number of offers for merchant fulfilled and for FBA, the rank, that sort of thing. Just use your common sense. You know, take all of that into consideration. Don't take one into consideration. Don't take 2. Take all of it. And what I'll get to in a second, Mike. And what what's important is to be able to do that quickly when you're sourcing. So common sense, tip number 2 is to make profit, but be realistic. So don't price too high. You want to make a profit, but you want to sell it quicker than later, I would say, unless there's a ton of profit. And it's a very rare book that there is a steady demand for. That does happen. There are thousands of books like that. They're just less, or they're less, you're going to find those books less often. Number 3 is don't always be the lowest price. Sometimes, based upon the factors, you can price it a little bit higher. You don't always have to be the very bottom FBA price, but sometimes be the lowest. If you want to flip that book quicker, if you want to have a faster, higher turnover rate, then sometimes it's good to be the lowest. Tip 5 is don't undercut, match. So I highly recommend that you match instead of undercutting. Mike asked, for Gaylords of books, what's your price per Gaylord? what percentage are FBA worthy, and what's your ASP on those winners? Oh, that's tough to answer, but I would say, so I've paid between $65 and $75 a Gaylord for a Gaylord of books, depending upon if I have a pallet and an empty Gaylord. So 65 for the Switch, or to give them an empty one and a pallet, 75 if I don't have it. And that was not buying a lot. If I was to buy like, you know, a truckload, which is I think 46 of them, then that price would probably be much less. But yeah, what percentage are FBA worthy? So that's varied in the past. Let's see. So I've gotten, you know, as little as like 30 FBA worthy books to as many as close to 100 out of a Gaylord. Now, well, probably like 70 to 80 on the high end. So in one Gaylord of books, you're going to get around 800 plus books. So 10% is 80, 5% is 40. So it's about 5 to 10% would be a good range. If you can get consistently 5 to 10% out of one Gaylord just for FBA, then you're doing pretty well. You have a good source. What's your ASP on those winners? It varies. Once again, I can't give you a concrete answer to that, but I can say that I have some Gaylords are better than others. So you could have a Gaylord of only that you find 30, 35 FBA books, but there's a lot of textbooks. So for instance, I've gone through some Gaylords of books where I remember one in particular where I found like, I don't know, 40 or more like textbooks, legitimate books going for, I mean, many of them way over $20, but all of them over 20 bucks. And those were the great Gaylords, right? Not every Gaylord is going to be that great. Some won't have any textbooks or school-related books, and they'll all be smaller profit, that type of stuff. It'd be a mixture, maybe a few higher-priced books, most of them in the mid-range to low. So it's going to vary. You know, sometimes you might only get $5 profit per book. If you pull out a lot of high-priced ones, maybe it'll be closer to $20 or $15. It just kind of depends. It's hard to say. Everyone's sources are different, and if you're able to find Gaylords and you find ones that are consistently giving you good books, you know, but chances are it's going to be kind of all over the place. Charlotte says, I would love to find a Gaylords of books, but shipping to me is over the top. Okay. Hold on one second, Charlotte. So Mike, no problem. If you're going to, how many are you going to buy? Do you have a storage unit? Are you using your house? Do you have a warehouse? Are you buying like a small, like 4 or 5 or whatever? Or are you buying like 20? How many are you buying? Because the more you buy, if you can handle it, the space-wise, the cheaper the price is going to be per Gaylord. So, I mean, I've heard people paying like $40 a Gaylord because they're buying a lot more. So it just depends. Charlotte says, I would love to find a Gaylord of books, but shipping to me is over the top. So you're saying you don't live in an area where you can find Gaylords that are close by, that you have to get them shipped from like across the state or out of state kind of a thing? Because it does depend on where you live. You know, if you're not in a highly populated area, then you might have to get it shipped from somewhere else. But once again, if you buy a lot, and again, you know, if you're doing this by yourself without any help, then it's going to be tough to get through them fast. But excuse me, if you can get through them fast, you can maybe buy a lot more. I'm in my house, but I have a 40 by 12 shop. I am in rural Arkansas. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how close or what's the closest possible hub of or largest city where you could maybe find Gaylords, but if you haven't looked into it to get specifics, it's probably worth it for sure. But yeah, definitely. I mean, some people like yourself and others, you know, it's a matter of where they live for sure. That's just how it is, right? I fortunately live in a highly populated area. And even when it comes to the thrift stores, I don't see that much competition in the garage sales. Well, book sales, more competition, but that type of stuff. But when it comes to Gaylords, there's a lot of sources around here. I mean, not out in the open. You have to find them, but there's a lot. Yeah, an hour. Yeah, if you have to drive that far to go to a thrift store, definitely look into bulk books for sure. Um, let's see. Freckle Daddy just wanted to say thank you. Watched you back when you were writing. Yeah, writing dirty with your copyrighted name. Yeah, I can no longer use that name. Helped me get into FBA. Happy with the side income I'm making with books, video games, etc. Cool. I'm glad you were watching me like 3 years ago when I had a different name. Dare I say it, Book Bandit. And I really like that name, which is why I chose it. But unfortunately, couldn't continue to use it because somebody else already had it. Yeah, but if I come up with a as clever or interesting name, I'll probably switch to that. But for now, I'm going to stick with what I have. So Charlotte says, I don't even know how to look for them. So that's tough. I mean, I've been fortunate or lucky, however you want to call it, to find them on like Craigslist and on certain local apps like, what is it called? I forgot what they're called. Offer Up and other ones like that. But there's thrift stores, there's recycling centers, but that just requires like cold calling, going there in person. Just, if you're going to go that route, you just kind of have to go for it, I guess. I mean, I haven't gone that route, but like I just found another Gaylord source very close to where I live, who has a lot of media Gaylords, and I'm going to start to order from him. He also does books, but he's got a lot of other people that are buying from him. So the mixed media, the DVDs, CDs, video games, software, that type of stuff is. Hold on one second. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Estás bien? Yeah. So, and Mike's. Oh. Okay. So, a recycler. So, okay. So, a lot of times books can be found at recyclers, like paper recyclers, because people recycle books there. I don't really know exactly how it works, but yes, recyclers are a potential place. Not necessarily all of paper recyclers, not necessarily all of them will have books, but some of them might. That's a place to start. Mike says, are you having success selling the duds on eBay? Do you take them to a recycler? So currently, Mike, I'm not consistently. Well, I'm not ordering book Gaylords, so I'm not doing that consistently. But when okay, but when I was, what I'll say is, yeah. So some of the duds, okay, for instance, so you can do like kids' books are really good. You can do lots of kids' books. What I would hold on. Crystal, you hear him? He's yelling for you. Okay. He wants you here. Sorry about that, guys. In the future and live. So yeah, I had a little bit of success selling books on eBay, but they're mostly not individual books. They're mostly lots. So they would be like kids' books. They Sorry. Yeah, so they would be kids books, for instance, by author, by series, like, you know, I mean, for sure things like Harry Potter, um, those types of popular kids books that have a series. If you can get as many of them together as possible, the better. Even young adult, even the floppy books, the thin floppy books, that type of stuff, either by author or genre slash category. Excuse me. You can also do yeah, old cookbooks. So there's all different types of categories. It seems to be that people on eBay, when it comes to book lots, really any type of lots, but books, CDs, DVDs, they like a deal, and they also like if there's a common theme when it comes to books, a common theme or the same author or the series. Like I just sold. So some of the ones that I look for are Twilight series, the 4 books. I've sold them twice. I have another one up right now. I just listed one yesterday and it sold with less than a day. Um, the hardback seems to sell faster. Hardcovers, Harry Potter. I haven't sold Harry Potters yet, but those seem to sell really. Oh no, that's not true. Those were DVDs. I sold the DVDs, but definitely by genre. Also, there's what people like to buy are old. Like a lot of times in Gaylords, you'll find these old books that have all these kind of fancy spines, vintage books, and you can sell those in lots. People like to put them, I don't know, up on shelves or even prop departments or whatever. So you can put those together and by color or by type of book, and those sell really well. And those are books that normally, you know, I think a lot of people would literally throw out or just recycle or donate. So those are the kind of things. If you just do research on eBay, you'd be surprised. I'm always surprised at what sells well on there in lots. Like for CDs, what I've been doing really well with is getting into particular niches and particular artists and putting as many together as I can and then selling those. Some do better than others, but I like to do auctions on some of those. So for instance, I put together a bunch of all artists, Britney Spears. I put together like 5 of her CDs. I don't know how many she's had, but 5 of them, and did an auction. I didn't make a ton of money, but they sold for like over $7, you know, over $1 a CD, which was pretty good considering these were CDs I would normally just throw into a big lot that I would do like an 80, 90 CD lot and not get hardly anything for it. And I was able to pull out more profit. So the more that you drill down, whether it's CDs or books, the better, the more specific it is. And it's really trial and error. So if you're buying in bulk with books, you're going to find that as you go through them, the more you go through them, you know, you scan, and then if it's not good for FBA, and I don't know if you're doing merchant fulfilled, there's going to be some ones that are good for merchant fulfilled, but if it's not good for merchant fulfilled, then you can start putting them into categories. So you got a bunch of cookbooks, put the cookbooks together. If you got a bunch of young adults, put them together. But yeah, I would say eBay is a pretty good alternative to just donating them or recycling them, of course. However, the big caveat is that eBay takes more time than Amazon in general because they just don't have the type of data and software available that Amazon does, especially for FBA. So you can't quickly know how often something sells, how much it sells for. You have to do the research, and then you have to take pictures, and then you have to list it, et cetera, et cetera. So it does take more time, but there's definitely good money in it. I mean, I started selling on eBay last April for the first time, and I've done surprisingly well. I've sold several thousand items, a lot of individual stuff, but I've also gotten into lots, and those are pretty fun because you can get rid of a lot of stuff quickly. The more you put up, the more you sell. So do you guys have any more questions? It's 8 o'clock here, 8 p.m., so it's been about 34 minutes. If you guys have any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm probably going to end the video. Hopefully that if you're watching this in the future, those 5 tips help you out. I know as the videos go on, these live videos, I take questions and, you know, sometimes go off topic and that sort of thing. But hopefully, you know, you can learn a little bit more from it. So no more questions. I appreciate you guys coming out. We got up to like 10. Yeah, no problem, Mike. I wish you the best. Let me know if you're going to tune into other live or live streams. Let me know how your bulk buying is going and whatnot. And Hey Fabian, what's up, man? How you doing? Let me know how it's going because I would like to see if you're finding some good books. Okay, Fabian said he's been doing it for 6 months. Are you doing? Oh, are you doing bulk or are you doing? Oh, yeah, my kids are silly. I would have them in here with me, but I can't concentrate if they're fooling around in the background. Otherwise, they would be great entertainment for you guys. But I just cannot focus on talking and answering questions. But yeah, they're definitely entertaining. Um, sorry. Okay. Fabian says only books gonna close the month 6K. So that's 6K gross. You're grossing 6K. That's great. Now, are you? Whoa, the chat disappeared. Oh, okay, cool. So you're doing like, what are you doing mostly? Are you doing like combination thrift store, garage sale, estate sale, book sale? Or are you like focusing on like certain ones? I mean, thrift stores mostly, whatever. Oh, okay. 6K is awesome. 6K gross. That's awesome, man. Like, especially if you've only been doing it. Yeah, yeah. Thrift stores, libraries, book sales. Great. That's how I started, and I've been doing that. If you've been watching my videos at all, maybe not, but lately I've been like the last 3 weeks, I've been hitting up all my old thrift store spots, and I've been finding a good amount. Like today wasn't that great. I went to three thrift stores, and two of them really sucked because one of them was a Goodwill, and I just went there because it was there close by. But in the third one, I did well at, and I got 16 books and one CD. That was good. I got like 21 books today, so I was able to I'm putting together a shipment of, I believe it's 84, 86 books and CDs, mostly books. Anyway, so I also do electronics. Electronics are great. Okay, cool. I'm glad you finally started. That's good. This is like the kind of thing. The thing about FBA in general and books is that books are plentiful. They're everywhere. They're cheap to buy, and there's lots of profit in them. And you can build a consistent, steady income if you're consistent about sourcing and shipping. Those are the two big ones. You got to be weekly. You got to source. Weekly, you got to ship, or at least every 7 to 10 days ship out. Okay, VCRs. I've done a few VCRs through FBA, Merchant Fulfilled, and also on eBay. I've had a few problems doing VCRs because of them, like people saying that they didn't work when they got them. I had like one or two, and so I just stopped doing it with FBA and decided if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do Merchant Fulfilled or eBay. But I totally get the benefit and advantage of doing it FBA. A lot of people do that. And I know you can pack them pretty well, but it seems like no matter how well I pack them, I've still had issues. But VCRs, there's a lot of good money in VCRs for sure. I used to make some videos about them. You can buy VCRs for like anywhere between, $5 or $6 to like 15, 20 bucks and resell them for, depending on which ones they are, $60 and up, $80, $100. And I've done that quite a few times. So they're pretty easy to deal with. You just hook them up to a computer, just test them out. Pretty simple. At any rate, I think I got to go, guys. I wish I could take more questions, but I totally get it, Fabian. Do FBA for now, and then, I mean, I'd say FBA over Merchant Fulfilled, but you can do a little Merchant Fulfilled if you have some space. But if you get into bulk, you're definitely going to have to do either Merchant Fulfilled or eBay, or you're just going to have a ton of stuff on your hands to deal with, which is a downside to bulk. Yeah, VCRs, electronics can be really cheap. So I got to go, Fabian and everybody else. Thank you. I would love to keep hanging out. If I did this video a little earlier, then maybe I could, but I got to put the kids to bed. I appreciate you guys coming out. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Check out the links below. I've got some of the stuff that I use when it comes to like scales and like random stuff that I use, Excel list, whatever. But otherwise, just tune into my videos. I really appreciate it. Ask questions, comment below if you're watching this in the future, and always hit that subscribe button and make sure that you get notified when I go live. Good job. 15 sales, $300. Awesome, man. Keep it up. So as always, guys, keep booking, and I'll see you tomorrow. End stream.